All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. All right, welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to yet another live stream bringing you the latest in Chelsea news. Hope each and every one of you guys are doing well. Big up to each and every one of you guys as well. Good to see so many of you guys are already here, already logged on, already in the live chat. It is buzzing, it is going off. Big up each and every one of you guys. DLM Perplex, my brother, big up to you. Chelsea Empire, big up to you. Google Lethu, big up, my man. Any transfer news? I believe there is some transfer news. I just won't be covering it in this particular video, in this particular stream. I want to talk more about the training ground that, Cobham training ground potentially or possibly, I don't even know whether it's been sold or not. I think it is most likely already sold, or it's been presented to be sold to the Premier League, and then whether that has been passed or not, we'll get to know more in details. But looks like it is in the process of getting sold to ourselves, to our owners. So we'll talk about all of this, asset stripping, Chelsea, financial fair play, loophole, yet another loophole. So we'll talk about all of that in this particular stream. We'll keep all the transfer news, all the juicy transfer news for the video later on, wrapping up the day's news. So don't worry, we've got everything covered. Big up Dominic, big up Bill, big up Valan, my man Valan, big up to you. Kamal Dean, big up to you. James Wood, Gremlin, Tamal, Enzinho, Joshua, everyone's here. This is fantastic to see. Flyers, Beza, Eddie, good to see all you guys. All right, let's talk about this whole situation about Cobham training ground being sold. Let me just have a quick look. Let me bring up the news first. Let's see what the news is telling us, and then we're gonna try and make some sense about the whole thing. Look, I'm not gonna pretend like I know everything, what it means, what are the implications. By the way, Andre Santos scored the late winner, so we'll talk about that in the video later on tonight. We'll try and catch up on that. These are some of the transfer news that's floating around. As I said, we'll try and capture that later on. But check this out. On the recent report of Chelsea selling Cobham to themselves, Premier League owners had the chance to outlaw selling assets like stadium, training grounds, etc. to themselves, but decided not to enforce it. So yeah, looks like this transaction might have already happened. For those asking what it is, here is the report on it. So this particular individual, SLBSN, Football Media Business, and a whole heap of other things, they've reported, exclusive, is this why Chelsea have told Ornstein they no longer need to sell before 30th of June 2024? So if you guys remember my last video, which was the late video yesterday, UK time, where David Ornstein, and I showcased all of that in my video, David Ornstein stating that Chelsea are not worried about the financial fair play this particular financial period. They Chelsea still need to worry about it next financial period, which is the season after, season 24-25. For 24-23, we might be okay, and we're going to talk about why we may be okay. So this came off the back of that. Chelsea have now attempted to sell or have actually sold their Cobham training ground to themselves, i.e. intra-group transaction. Their lawyers applied to register this dealing in early February after the window creaked shut. So Chelsea's 23-24 PSR confidence appears to be based on this intra-group accounting profit to outweigh the expected 200 million plus operating loss. Has it been approved by the Premier League? Is there really over 100 million to 150 million FMV? I think this is face something value. I don't know, profit to be had from Cobham. And was the property validly held anyway, because Chelsea Training Ground Limited was dissolved in 2015, giving rise to a potential bonification issue, other sales too. So look, face market value, there you go, face market value. I was wondering, that M might have been for market. Recently, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard that Chelsea in the process of selling a couple of hotels that are under Chelsea's name to Bluescope. And now we're hearing Cobham Training Ground having the same sort of ramifications as well. Now, what does it all mean? Before we even get into the depth of asset stripping and perhaps another financial fair play loophole, what does it all mean? All I'm going to say, firstly, from a very basic point of view, to me, and I'm happy to hear what you guys all have to say in the live chat as well. Let me know your thoughts around it. First of all, what all of this means to me, Chelsea looking to sell hotels to them, to Bluescope, training ground to Bluescope from the get-go, is we are definitely in some financial problem. We are definitely in some financial problem. If you're not in any financial problem, then you would not be going in this degree to do such transactions. This is what it's called asset stripping. Now, to all the people, for all the people that might be foreign, this particular lingo, this particular, financial wordplay, asset stripping, what does it mean? Just Google it. But the basic meaning is when owners, they take over a particular company and they want to sell off the company's assets to basically bring in profit for themselves, for the shareholders, right? But I don't think this is totally the case in Chelsea's situation. I don't think the owners are selling these assets to benefit the shareholders. I think, and this is where the discussion is, right? This is where the discussion is. I feel the owners are doing this because we are in a bit of a financial mess. We know the last financial period that just went, we made a loss of somewhere around 90 million. And that now is a total of in excess of, I think, 200 plus million over the last 2 years, right? The one before 90 million, the one before this one, I think that was also around roughly 100 and something million. So we're approximately somewhere hovering around 200 plus million of losses of the past 2 seasons. That's why this financial period that we're in right now, it is crucial that we at least make a profit of in excess of 100 plus million, so that we don't have a running balance of 3 years of consecutive losses totaling in excess of 105 or 106 million. That's the financial fair play guidelines, right? So I think in this instance, what the owners are trying to do is, and maybe to a certain degree, they might have heard some of our voices. They might have even, understood, I suppose, Maurizio Pochettino's willingness to keep some of these players in terms of Gallagher, in terms of Chalobah. I don't know. Look, next financial period, they're going to have to be sold anyway. But perhaps this financial period ending in 30th June, they're thinking that, look, maybe some of the players that we're looking to sell, we just can't sell them by 30th of June. We just cannot sell them by 30th of June this year. So what's the best way to ensure we are within the financial fair play rules and regulations? And I think this is the reason they're trying to find all these other different avenues, loopholes, as we want to call it, by selling the hotels. Everything that Chelsea kind of owned. Chelsea owned a couple of hotels. Sell that back to Bluescope. Chelsea obviously owned Cobham Training Ground. Sell that back to Bluescope. Realize the market value for these particular assets and sell it back, which kind of makes it look like Chelsea's made some profit. And that can go towards the financial fair play. Now, I think that's probably the case. I don't think that asset stripping is for the benefit of the owners. I think the asset stripping, in my personal opinion, is purely so that Chelsea is saved. Chelsea somehow is saved for this financial period. Let me know your thoughts. Now, this is kind of somewhat similar to, if you guys remember, Barcelona with their economic levers. Barcelona were, they're still in massive financial struggle. And Barcelona had to pull all of these economic levers. They had to sell their broadcasting right. They had to sell many things. They put up their stadium for people if they want to have a wedding there, if you want to bring in your mates and you want to play at Camp Nou. They've done a whole heap of different things, different economic levers that they hit, just so they can financially survive. Some of the economic levers they've stated that they can potentially buy back later on. Now, is this something that Chelsea can buy back down the track? Or I guess ultimately, if Blues, because now what we're going to have to look at is Chelsea as a club, no problems. Chelsea as a club is on its own. Strasbourg as a club on its own. And all of these assets are now getting put on Bluesco. I think how we need to picture all of this is Bluesco is the entity. Bluesco is the big entity, and all of these clubs are within Bluesco, basically. So in the future, if another owner wants to come in, they're going to have to buy Bluesco. They're going to have to buy Bluesco as a package, and then you get everything with the package. I don't really know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. If I'm being absolutely honest, I don't really know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Chelsea being stripped of all its assets. As I said, I think it's being done because of the financial issues we find ourselves in. Now, you may say, how did we find ourselves in such a financial mess? Why did the owners have to go and spend so much? The crazy part is they kind of did. I think one of the stipulations of buying Chelsea from the get-go, one of the stipulations, and I don't know whether the stipulation is from Roman or the stipulation was, I'm not really sure whose stipulation this was, but one of the stipulation was that Chelsea owners, when they bought Chelsea, you must spend £1 billion on players. Like, you must invest £1 billion. That was one of the stipulations. When you bought when the owners bought the club, one of the stipulations was that you must spend £1 billion in transfers. Now, when the owners took over, we have to understand, over 10 years, some are saying over 10 years, you're going to have to spend £1 billion. Look, maybe, I don't know, perhaps, or perhaps they've just done it in one hit and from here on, they'll just see how it all goes. Spending £1 billion and not getting UEFA did wake up these owners. They were stupid from day one. All I'm going to say is that when the owners came in, there was an issue. JC, you're mistaken. It's not entirely accurate. CFC acquired new players, which are also assets. So the nature of the asset is changing. Yeah, look, I'm not claiming to be some expert here. I'm happy to take your comments, and I'm not claiming that this is what's in terms of why certain transactions are happening and what. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm just providing how I picture this, how I see this. Happy for you to see it the way you want to see it. Of course, players coming in builds to the balance sheet as well. No doubts about that. No doubts about that. They're probably buying all of these players to build up the balance sheet, to bolster up the financial position of Chelsea Football Club. 100% agree. 100% agree. But what I'm trying to say is that I think these owners, they were bound to, they were kind of forced to buy a lot of players as well at the same time, because last season, there were a lot of players that didn't want to be at Chelsea Football Club. Last season, there was a lot of players that didn't want to be at Chelsea Football Club. There was a lot of players that had their contracts run out. So there was a push for Chelsea owners to buy a lot of players anyway. Okay, did we perhaps buy a bit too much in excess? Yeah, perhaps we did. Perhaps we did. But these owners, I think their vision was try and capture as many young, talented players. And with the multi-club model, they can farm these players out and potentially build the value of these players, which consequently builds the value of the balance sheet, right? So, look, I'm not sure whether we need to be so worried. I'm not sure whether we need to be worried that Chelsea's getting stripped off the assets to Bluesco, because ultimately Bluesco is the owner. Bluesco is the owner. I don't think these owners, some people are worried that, once you strip off all the assets, then eventually they're gonna just deem themselves bankrupt down the track. They're gonna list themselves as bankrupt, and then the club owns no assets and it's got no value anymore. The club in itself has no value anymore. I don't think that's going to be the case. At the end of the day, the club is a lucrative club in the Premier League. I don't think it's going to be allowed to just go to bankruptcy, voluntary bankruptcy, just because the owners are looking to do that. I don't think that it's going to be that easy. But as I said, one thing's for certainty: it does show that we are financially in trouble. Financially, we're in trouble. And this is why it's so prudent that we increase our revenue. This is why the new development of the stadium is so important. This is why making to Europe is so important. Not just Europa League. Europa League is a start. But to go back to Champions League is so important. This is why these owners, they're trying to build our brand to a higher level in America, so that another different revenue stream comes through. This is why we've recently heard Todd Bowley talk about, perhaps focusing on players. Cole Palmer's brand. They want to build Cole Palmer's brand, which in a sense builds Chelsea's brand. This is why we're trying to, get that lucrative sponsorship with Jordan. But a lot hinges upon making it into Europe. So let me know what you guys feel about the whole situation. Let me see what you guys are saying. Bluesco will be sold along with the club at the end of the day. Decide to sell. Exactly. That's how I look at it. I don't think we need to be worried. At the end of the day, in the future, if someone comes in and they want to buy Chelsea, and they may look at it, Chelsea don't have any assets. Chelsea don't even have a training ground. No, they're going to have to buy Bluesco. They're going to have to buy the entire package together. They're going to have to buy Bluesco, not just Chelsea and all the other assets that Bluesco hold, plus the multi-club model. They're going to have to buy it as a package. So from that perspective, I'm not worried. I'm more concerned what happens next season. What more can you sell? What other things? Like, for example, Barcelona. Barcelona sold their broadcasting rights. Is that something that could be sold? And Barcelona sold many other things as well. So that's where I'm like, where does it all end? We might have somehow survived this financial fair play period. What do we do in the next financial fair play period? How long until we reach, we don't have to do all of this shenanigans, basically? We will never get a new stadium. Stanford Hut is our heritage. Craig's saying, on the books, we are in trouble, but financially, we will never be in trouble. Yeah, on the books, we're in trouble. That's right. Liz, did you know Nottingham's Ola Aina was from Chelsea Academy? Yeah, 100%, bro. I watched Ola Aina play for Chelsea once upon a time. Americans will not want to support a team that lives mid-table. And this is, I guess, the push for Chelsea Football Club to go up the table. Miz, would you take Europa League or Conference League? Of course, Europa League. I'd take Europa League. But if we get Conference League, I'm not, it's something. It's at least something, and we can hopefully build on that. Jesse, we should have gotten a winning manager instead of bringing Harry Potter and Pochettino. Just keep it. Keep TT. Milo, okay, big up to you. That has always been the plan. Franchising Chelsea and their players, that's a much more bigger picture and lucrative strategy than selling players. There's not a lot of money in that. That's very true. Franchising players. Cole Palmer's name. Who wouldn't want to, in America, not just in America, even us, who wouldn't want to buy Cole Palmer's jersey after this season? Everyone would want to buy Cole Palmer's jersey. So yeah, franchising players 100% is definitely one of the strategies. No, don't follow Barcelona. Barcelona sold their future revenues because apparently they had nothing else left. There you go. Some of their economic levers are actually quite mad, you know. Sold their future revenue. So that's in that, like, once you get into that level of mess, I don't know how easy it is to get out of it. The only way I think you can get out of it is you just gotta keep winning. You gotta win. You gotta make sure you're in the Champions League. You gotta make sure you're getting close to winning the Premier League. I don't know how else you're gonna actually do this. You're gonna have, because by winning, you're gonna get those lucrative sponsors. These are all short-term solutions. I hope we don't need to do this all the time. Exactly. These are really just short-term solutions. Really, these are just short-term solutions. We do need to figure out what do we want to do in the long term. Tiger, big up to you, my man. Ms. Bro, namaste. Namaste to you. Were you also shocked at Old Trafford picks last night? Tweeted you some. At least we won't end up like that, right? Yeah, nah, man. I mean, that's mad what I saw at Old Trafford, the pictures on social media. Wow, the roof leaking. That's crazy. Haj, big up to you, my man. After the 10 years is up, they will pitch the sale of Blues Co. rather than just Chelsea on its own with just one part of Clearlake's portfolio. Exactly, because by the time 10 years is done, let's just say by then Chelsea's been stripped of all the assets. Chelsea as a club will not have any assets. Well, obviously you'll have the players and whatnot, and that in itself is assets, right? They'll have some value, but all the other assets in terms of the hotels, training ground, this, that, it won't be owned by Chelsea. So essentially, you can't just buy Chelsea, you have to buy Bluesco. And that in itself, I think, is a far better selling perspective for Bluesco. Chelsea might be, I don't know, they may pitch Chelsea for 3-4 billion, right? But they can pitch Bluesco as 10-15 billion as a package. So ultimately, yes, these owners will clean up. But that was always going to be the case. I'm not going to blame these owners because they're going to make a huge profit out of Chelsea in the future, or huge profit out of Chelsea. Huge profit out of the multi-club model that they're willing to create. No owners buy a club without thinking about the business side of things. Besides, obviously, Roman. But in Roman's time, he was doing it for other purposes. Roman loved Chelsea, no problems, no doubts about that. But for him, he had so much money in abundance. He needed some money where he can, outlay and basically hide. And he probably used Chelsea as a hiding mechanism for his abundance of money. Do you know what I mean? Whereas these lot, they've come through from a proper business mind. It's not from a fan's perspective, like Roman loved the club as a fan. These owners, they look at Chelsea as a business. And honestly, that's how ownerships are, man. That's how ownerships are. All I want them is from, using Chelsea as a business, no problems, but also try and have that human touch to it as well, where the fans, we demand success. So you do your business, but at the same time, make sure that you look after the fans by implementing successful plans to the club, so that it's win-win situation for both parties. And also, you have to say, if the owners don't win, they're not really going to make a lot of money out of it ultimately. Ultimately, you're not going to make a lot of money out of it. Malake, the US is all about capitalism, products, and all. That's why they are buying Estaval and Kendry. They are looking for the next big superstar to bank off and make them this Hollywood guy in football. You're right. You're absolutely right. Technically, the CFC clubs owns players and probably some buildings like stadium. The pitch is owned by Chelsea pitch owners, trust, and the rest by Bluesco. As an entity, what is left for Chelsea? Nothing. To be honest, nothing. But At the same time, does it matter? This is the question. Does it actually matter what is owned by Chelsea? Because ultimately, it's all under the Blues Co banner. Ultimately, it's all under the Blues Co's banner. Now, as I said, why are the owners doing this? And I've mentioned, I don't think the owners are doing this because they are just hungry for some money for the shareholders. No, I think the owners are genuinely doing this because the club's in financial trouble. The club's in financial trouble, and by 30th of June this season, they're going to have to do something to make sure that we're within the guidelines, or else next season we're going to cop some points deduction. And points deduction for us next season, it's going to be detrimental. We cannot afford to get any points deduction next season. We simply cannot. So I genuinely think, from what I'm seeing so far, and as I said, happy to get all your comments, I don't think there is anything negative about this situation. I think the owners are doing this because they're forced to do this. What happens next financial fair play period? That's going to be interesting, because how many more assets does Chelsea have? How much longer can you keep selling Chelsea's assets to save your backside? Sooner or later, you're going to have to sell some players. You're going to have to get back into European levels, and you're going to have to win some of these trophies and win some of this big prize money. Harrison, we hit the ultimate jackpot with Roman, like winning the million on a lottery card. These owners are just the normal standard of what you usually get. Look, yes, do you know what? In one hand, 100% we got lucky with Roman. But on the other hand, now we are seeing all of these leaked documents coming out that there's a lot of transactions that Roman did that was actually illegal. They were actually illegal. And which is now putting us into a lot of strife. So, yeah, we have to consider that side of it as well. It's creative accounting. Asset stripping refers to external sales as well, which doesn't seem to be happening. Remember that they are bound to stability agreements based on financial conditions. Fair enough, man. Aman, big up to you, bro. Miz, in our Indian subcontinent, it is embarrassing when you have sell your house things to keep things afloat. It means head of the house has effed it up. Look, this is what I'm saying. This is what I said from the get-go. What all of this really means is you're in financial problem. You're in big financial problem. Now, whether all of these financial problems was an issue created by the new owners, I'm not really sure. Don't forget, the previous owners, the wage bill was mad. Start of this season, if you guys remember, there was a lot of comments that were coming out that off the back of last summer and all the players that we cleared out, Chelsea have now saved over 100 million in just wages per season. 100 million in just wages. Yes, under Roman, we won a lot. We won a lot of stuff. But I don't think we were running in a sustainable manner. I don't think the football club was running smartly. We were willy-nilly just paying people a lot of money. Every brother coming into Chelsea Football Club was earning a lot of wages. I think this is something that the new owners have come in and they've rectified that. No more earning huge wages just for the sake of it. Kepa, Havertz, Werner, so many more. I think even Malang Sarr, and many, many more. Lukaku. Under this new ownership, that's not the case. That's not the case. You're not going to be earning that level of money under this new ownership unless you absolutely warrant it. And that's just one side of it. Under the previous ownership, and I guess, look, Roman, I think, tried to redevelop the stadium. I think he did try. One of our biggest downfalls is as a big club in Europe, as a big club in Europe, we don't generate that much match day revenue. If you look at our, like, honestly, pull up this financial statements, pull up the financial statements for last financial period, the period before, compare that with Tottenham. Tottenham, who we laugh about, Spurs are a club that we laugh about. I remember, honestly, I remember seeing they make further per season, somewhere around 20 to 40 million more in just match day revenue. Further 20 to 40 million more. I think, just make sure you guys check that. They make a lot more money just by stadium, just by having a bigger stadium. So, in the future, as Todd Bowley said recently, financial fair play, I think the rules and regulations are changing, or they've already changed. I have to look into that. I think they might have already changed, because Todd Bowley talks about this recently in his interview when he was in Hollywood. In the future, you're going to be able to spend what you earn, like percentages of what you earn. So let's say, for instance, you earn 100 million. I'm just basic numbers, right? 100 million. And you get to spend 80% of 100 million. So it's that 80 million. So out of 100 million earned in revenue, you get to spend 80 million. So the bigger you're earning, the bigger your ability to spend, basically. And I think that percentage will go lower and lower in the years to come. I think it'll start with 80, and then eventually it'll get to about 75, 70. I think, and I think at 70%, I think it stops finally. So if your revenue is smaller, you have a smaller portion to spend. If your revenue is higher, you can spend as much as you want. Well, spend as much as you want in the sense that 70% or 80% of that. So the bigger the revenue, the bigger the budget you have. So the spectrum will change. The spectrum will change in the future. You have to earn a lot of money. And I think this is where the owners are coming in, thinking about the earning side of things a lot more. So I'm keen to see how this all happens, because right now we're in a bit of a financial mess. Indigo Ms, I agree. These financial loopholes are being exploited by Clear Lake to avoid financial penalties. Obviously, the regulators know what is really going on. Will they allow it? I don't think so. Well, no one's actually vetoed it. Apparently, the clubs had the opportunity to veto this, but they haven't done this. So this is going through. Because the location of Stanford Bridge prevents it from being expanded in London. No building is allowed to block the view from Buckingham Palace and St. Paul's Cathedral. Stanford Bridge is in the middle. See, that's an issue. That's an issue. We're gonna have to think about relocation then. Because why do you keep saying Bluesco? It's itchy in my ears. Say Blueco. Lol, keep up the good work. Okay. It's just easily comes out of the tongue. Blueco, no problem. Blueco. But you know what I mean. Yeah. Milo, okay, this is why I'm all for changing the stadium. I read an article. English clubs are really stubborn, don't like changing from their old ways. The rest of Europe changed stadiums, and it's not a fuss. Yeah, the biggest issue about us changing the stadium is the pitch owners. The pitch owners are not allowing this to happen. The pitch owners that we have right now at Stanford Bridge, they're opposing such plans. So we have to convince them first. Kuba, even if we qualify for Europe, we are going to be looking at UEFA FFP breaches and possible ban. UEFA FFP is much stricter than Premier Leagues. I believe clubs are allowed 80 million loss. So, Kuba, if we do make it into Europe next season, that won't have any implications for this financial season. which ends 30th of June. So next financial period, of course, the stricter rules and regulation kicks in. But hopefully, I don't know what more assets Chelsea have to sell. Sooner or later, you're going to have to sell the players. Yeah, you're going to have to. Or you're going to have to find some lucrative sponsors. And by making it into Europe, hopefully we can get some of these lucrative sponsors with Jordan and so on and so forth. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Leith, we have to be glad to have a striker like Jackson. Is scoring 14 goals. Some people don't have good strikers like Nunez, missing big chances, and look at Burnley and Sheffield United strikers. Tiba, imagine the Milan clubs agreed to leave San Siro, but for us, Stanford Bridge is impossible to move from. Yeah, it's quite mad, man. Oh, yes, Miz. And the pitch owners also own the name Chelsea FC. If there is anything other than Mudryk that the club owns, is there anything other than Mudryk? That's too funny, man. Haj, Mudryk is the best asset to sell. Top player who deserves better. Let Mudryk leave and shine elsewhere. Robbie, big up to you. Are they opposing against changing locations or renovating Stanford Bridge? I think they're opposing both. I think they're really opposing the relocation. Renovating, they probably don't care. If there is a scope of renovating Chelsea, stand by stand, no problems, because the pitch owners are going to be there, right? I think they're opposing the relocation. I feel that's the case. Cuba, that's the issue. We're just buying time, but it will catch us sooner or later. Better be banned now instead of it in 2 years when we can possibly qualify for Champions League. Look, interesting times ahead, man. Absolutely interesting times ahead. Chelsea pitch owners are honestly holding us back. Disaster off bench, cool. That's about it. Timothy is saying just gonna have to make Stanford Bridge a tower to fit it. Royston, we are 10th largest capacity stadium in the league. That's bad. That is actually bad. That is actually quite laughable. 10th largest. That, for a big club like Chelsea to be 10th largest, nah, you gotta be in the top 4, top 5, man, like top 3, if I'm being honest. Due to complications, they will have to dig deep down. Chalobah is good enough to stay and should be on 200,000. Wow. Yeah, he should stay. I'm not really sure about the 200,000 part. You got to show few seasons of good work to earn that level of money. Chalobah had predominantly been injured this season. For me, he's still a very good defender. Don't get me wrong. I've sang his praise all throughout this season, to the point that I don't understand why we got defenders like Buddy Ashil and Desasi. I've made it quite vocal about it, but 200k now, that he can wait. I do have affiliation to the pitch owners, but still let me use allegedly. The reason they are being stubborn with Blueco is for a good reason. They're worried about these owners, mostly with the youths. Yeah, look, I guess you can say at least maybe as an alternative, they are looking to strip off these assets so that they can protect these youth players and not having to sell them immediately. I don't know. Maybe you can look at it that way. That's one way to see it, that, okay, well, the easier thing would have been to just keep selling these youth players from the academy and pick up that money. But I guess maybe by stripping off these assets and selling it to Chelsea, selling it to Blueco, interrelated, sort of related loans, basically they call it, right? You're perhaps finding another way than just selling off your academy products. That's just one way of looking at it. But yeah. All right, we're going to slowly wrap things up. Ladies and gentlemen, smash the like button. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe. I'm going to take a few more comments and we're going to slowly wrap it up. Mr. Big P's, the owners are robbing Chelsea property, giving the property to themselves. The time when selling Chelsea, they will be selling a name. Well, they'll be selling entire Blueco. I don't know whether there's anything wrong or bad in that. I think ultimately they're trying to help out Chelsea's financial mess. But they're selling all the youth to finance the 1 billion commitment. Yeah, look, I guess the question is going to be, what are you going to do next financial period? What's your plan for next financial period? I mean, there's that many assets that you can really sell after that. What are you going to do? Either you start earning some more money, or you're going to have to sell off some of these players, I suppose, some of these youth players. If Clearlake had spent 500 million instead of 1 billion, do you think we would have to sell our home utensils every year to be in good books? Yeah, true. I guess the other factor is they're buying all of these players to bolster their balance sheet as well, and hoping that this investment of 1 billion will turn into 5 billion. Do you know what I mean? Like they've already been, I suppose, somewhat proven right with Kendry Pires. Whatever the money they bought Kendry Pires for is probably already 20-30% more in value. And that's what they're hoping, that these investments that they've done is not just all going to the bin, but it's gonna double the value, maybe triple the value, maybe quadruple the value. Who knows? But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let me know all your thoughts in the comment section. If you've just joined in, smash the like button. If you're here for the first time, subscribe, hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. I shall see you guys later on today, wrapping up the day's news. But this was an interesting piece to really talk about. As I said, I'm not totally sure whether this is a good or a bad thing. We shall see with time. With time that's going to come upon us very, very soon. Until then, everyone, take care. See ya. Bye.